Going to talk about the ethics of nuclear power. Nuclear power has begun to play a large role in our lives since it was invented. With such reliance, there are bound to be mistakes. The first point that we're going to talk about is the risk and dangers of nuclear energy sources. Nuclear plants have very little risk that comes with them. However, it comes with potentially very large consequences if mistakes do happen. Nuclear meltdowns and radioactive waste material are such products that can be devastating. Much recent disasters was Fukushima nuclear power plant losing power in 2011. Most significant nuclear disaster was Chernobyl, Ukraine, which is still facing repercussions from the meltdown in 1986. There have been a total of 33 nuclear power plant accidents that have happened around the world since 1952. Nuclear disasters are significant because the waste remains radiotoxic for several 100,000 years. Radioactive or nuclear waste is a byproduct from nuclear reactors, fuel processing plants, hospitals, and research facilities. Radioactive waste is also generated while decommissioning and dismantling nuclear reactors and other nuclear facilities. Nuclear waste seems to be something that needs to be worried about. However, most waste can be stored safely or be recycled to be used for other nuclear power purposes. The seeming dangers of nuclear power come from lack of knowledge of it, which has led to poorly informed public opinion, as well as governments not being educated enough to make the correct rules and regulations regarding nuclear power. Governments of much larger countries are more informed. However, more than just large countries use nuclear power, so correct regulations are not used universally around the world. Many people fear even the smallest risk by nuclear power plants because of major incidents that have happened before. These fears are not entirely misplaced and must be factored into the ethics of nuclear energy.
Examples of disasters happening already. In 1986, the worst nuclear disaster in history happened in northern Ukraine in the city of Chernobyl. Even today, effects are still being felt from the event, and scientists estimated it will be another 20,000 years before the area is habitable again. The Chernobyl meltdown happened due to a failed inspection of the capacity of one of the power plants. Workers then overloaded this plant and power surged into the reactor, causing a series of explosions, exposing the nuclear core and releasing radioactive material into the atmosphere. Even after the initial meltdown, the action taken was poor and too late, which led to even more casualties. The USSR attempted to cover up the disaster and was only forced to release a statement admitting the disaster after radiation had reached surrounding countries. Disasters such as this have rarely happened before or since this accident, with the most recent happening in Japan after earthquakes and tsunamis disrupted the power in multiple plants. This external power loss caused the overload inside the reactors, leading to a series of explosions and radiation release, which led to the evacuation of surrounding cities. The response was quick and efficient, though, much better than the Chernobyl disaster, which shows how knowledge of nuclear plants has progressed over time and disasters have happened less often and the consequences have become less severe.
The third point we'll be discussing is the benefits of nuclear power and the risks and dangers of contending with the current energy sources, such as oil and natural gas. Even with the risks of nuclear power, it is still a very efficient energy source and has the potential to provide a multitude of power for lifetimes with considerably little waste and repercussions if knowledge and research are done on the subject. Nuclear power provides around half of the United States' clean energy, and the amount of carbon emissions that are avoided per year because of nuclear power is equivalent to removing around 100 million cars from the road. The nuclear industry also provides economic benefits as it creates nearly 500,000 jobs and provides $60 million per year to the U.S. GDP. The ethics of nuclear power boils down to the alternative energy sources, which would be to continue to use current means to provide energy for people. This would be to continue to use oil and natural gas from the earth. The trouble comes with these being non-renewable sources that will eventually reach an end. They also release dangerous emissions that can change the earth and its environment. The question is now brought up of which is worse, the risk of nuclear power or the impending consequences of oil and natural gas. Given time, effort, money, and resources, nuclear power can become a sustainable, low-risk power source. However, are people willing to give those things up to achieve progress?